It was Air Officer Candidate School, and it was down in Pensacola. It was a great experience. I think it was about 3.5 months, and I loved every second of it. I loved the discipline of it. I loved the tradition of the Navy, and the history of our Navy, and meeting so many other people from walks of life. But again, I was unique in that I was going into the reserves. And my first duty station was up here at Cheyenne Mountain, also where my dad worked. I worked in there, and I enjoyed working inside the mountain, and I got my clearance. I became an intelligence officer, and I enjoyed learning about, of course, it was during the Cold War, actually. It was exciting, and I began to learn Russian. I took Russian language classes from a lady from Kazakhstan, and I really dove into, I guess, Russian history and the way of life, and I enjoyed that very, very much. I went to Korea, and I had 6 tours there in Korea, in Daegu and Pohang and Shinhae, but I enjoyed it. They're a very warm culture. And then I went on to Belgium. I worked at NATO headquarters in biometrics. I was a biometric officer, and I signed up for a tour in the Netherlands. And again, a great place to live. I thought if I was going to retire in America, I'd probably retire in the Netherlands. They have a small NATO headquarters in Brunsum, Netherlands. And I signed up for a tour in Iraq, working for Task Force Troy. It was as a counter IED analysis. And I felt like I was really contributing a lot, especially in Iraq. And then I liked it a lot, and I signed up for a year in Afghanistan. I did 6 months at the Joint Intelligence Operations Center, and so that was really a nice change too. And because, like I said, tactical on one side and strategic on the other, and then counter piracy missions, with NATO. I don't think anyone had it better than I. It was different, I think, because we didn't have a unit. I deployed as an individual. You call it individual augmentee. And so that probably hindered gleaning some long-term friendships. I mean, I do send some to some emails or a Christmas card, if you will, to a couple of guys, I served with in Afghanistan. But nothing long term, nothing frequent anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are some reunions that I guess other services have, but my intel community, we have reunions once a year that we can participate in and just meet up with old sailors who are in the intel community. I think all veterans, appreciate the effort, and it's, Americans have made great strides, by comparison with vets coming back from Vietnam. But I think it would be really helpful if veterans were invited into schools to talk to elementary kids, middle school, high school, and have the children learn from people who live that life and those experiences, and not from a book. Because I know from my experience, I'd rather listen to a guy who was on a ship that was hit by a kamikaze as opposed to read it in a book. It just isn't the same. And you can ask questions and engage someone like that. And I think that would really help our military to, you never know when something is said that influences a child in school, that carries with them. And they can take that back to their parents maybe and talk about things over the dinner table and things. So I think it would be a great opportunity, almost essential, if vets were involved in schools more. And all they have to do is be invited. I think the vets would feel some gratuity there, a way of saying thank you. Hey, your story is important to us. Share it. Don't just keep it to yourself. Talk to your buddies. There's some children out there who would really like to learn. I spoke at Veterans Day at a high school here, and it was really heartwarming to have the students afterwards come up and shake my hand and say, hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for your story and things like that. So that meant a lot too. I would tell about my father. He had a better story. He was on the first documented kamikaze strike, World War II. And he was enlisted, and he was an SK2. And at kamikaze, he was in the Battle of Leyte Gulf. And the kamikaze hit the aft smokestack. There were two smokestacks, hit that and exploded and sank his ship. And he had aboard ship, and he was out in the water with burning oil. And he said, what people didn't die on his crew, died from the explosion. They died from the burning oil. And how you tried to jump on the leeward side, not the windward side because the oil was coming toward you. And then there were sharks out there. It was warm water. And what made it worse is my dad didn't know how to swim. I guess they're taking anybody and everybody, for the war. And the life vests he had, of course, they're not made very well back in World War II. So he was sinking because his vest was actually absorbing the seawater. And he didn't know how to swim. So finally he was rescued, and they couldn't pick up enough crewmen, and they would have to so anyway, he was rescued by another ship. And that ship was hit by kamikaze too, but he survived that again. And then he was on another ship with a destroyer. It was a supply ship off the Aleutian Islands. And that ship was hit by a mine in the middle of the night, and lost about half its crew as well. And they actually towed that ship, the part that was still afloat, they towed it back to Bremerton and riveted another part of a ship back on, made a new ship. Because that's what you do during war. You take what you have and you rebuild what you have to, because you just don't have time to make a completely new tank or truck or ship or plane. You just make things, put it back together. So, so he had some good stories like that. And I mean, there were some funny stories about getting seasick and being in storms at sea and things like that. And I felt I was more protected, I guess, being inside Cheyenne Mountain. I mean, nobody's going to hurt me there. And, being in Iraq and Afghanistan, there's a lot of shelling going on, but nothing like, World War II and Korean vets went through. So, I mean, I had it pretty easy. I think hearing stories like that really reverberates to children. Yeah. Well, I, I've learned a lot. It's the skills I've learned in the Navy helped me to take those and transition and use them in the civilian world. The writing ability and public speaking, maybe, and just I really enjoy listening to other people's stories as well. I enjoy meeting other vets, even other services, because everybody has a story. They're all unique, and um, so it's not just about the Navy, although I love it, but um, like at the VFW, I enjoy hearing everybody's story, and they all contributed to our great country. And my wife's Korean, and they have a conscription in Korea. You have to serve 2 years, and I often wonder if that would be better for our country if we required, once you graduate high school, you have to do 2 years in the military um, to learn skills, to learn how to get along with people, how to resolve conflict. Because I don't think these kids know how to do those things. Um, they they just don't communicate well. I don't think, and I think serving in a community in the military helps their family once they get a family, once they get a civilian job, and to learn the discipline to do well in the trade or college, whatever the route they go. They just learn those life skills that they don't learn anywhere else. So I think, what would this country be like if we had a 2 year conscription? You know, and but then again, part of me says, well, if kids don't want to be in there, they're going to make it worse for other people. But I still think, in my mind, a 2 year conscription would benefit our country and benefit those high school graduates, male and female. Because in Korea, you can still serve for your 2 years as a female if you wanted to.